Hello and welcome to Vatican Connections. I'm Emily Callan. The Pope's schedule was a little more audience-heavy than usual this week. On Thursday alone, he held 3 private audiences back-to-back. And first, with writers of the Italian newspaper La Civilta Cattolica. This periodical is run by Jesuits, and they just announced it will be published in 4 new languages, including French, English, Spanish, and Korean. Just before he had the chance to meet with the director of the newspaper, Father Antonio Spadaro, and the Jesuits' Superior General, Father Arturo Sosa. La Civilta Cattolica has been around for 167 years and has just released its 4,000th issue. In a long speech, the Pope remarked that he reads their newspaper regularly and told the Jesuits to be witnesses to Christ through their work and not just intellectuals. He said rigid thought is not divine because Jesus assumed our flesh, which is not rigid if not for the moment of death. There should be a restlessness to keep moving forward, an openness to respond to today's challenges, an imagination to stay flexible and merciful and free. The Catholic must never be afraid of the open sea, must never try to seek shelter in safe havens, Pope Francis insisted. He reminded them of 3 Jesuits who can be examples for them. First, St. Peter Favor, who was a pioneer of ecumenism, Matteo Ricci, who brought the Jesuits to China and drew the world map in Chinese characters, and Andrea Pozzo, who was a painter and architect. These men all have in common restlessness, openness, and imagination. He also mentioned the need for discernment, listening to what is happening and having a sense for what people go through in their daily life. The Holy Father congratulated them on publishing in 4 new languages and said, now that the world is increasingly connected, overcoming language barriers will help spread the message on a larger scale. On Thursday, he also met with leaders of Catholic education in Clementine Hall at the Vatican. They had been participating in the plenary assembly of the Congregation for Catholic Education this week. And as members of this congregation, they supervise schools affiliated to the Church. The Holy Father addressed the members and he encouraged them to listen to young people and to encourage those young people to be sowers of dialogue and of hope. This is what the Church does. It finds in younger generations its hope for the future. Each person belongs to the human family, the Pope said, and should be looked at that way. But what oftentimes dominates our culture is violence, poverty, exploitation, discrimination, and marginalization, what he refers to as the culture of waste. The role of Catholic education, then, is to create encounter between people in an atmosphere of respect, esteem, and sincere listening. The Holy Father spoke about St. Thomas. Catholic institutions should help students seek truth. But there is also one other thing which should also be an essential goal: sowing hope. The Pope added, man cannot live without hope, and education generates that hope. I am convinced, he says, that young people today need above all to lead a life that builds the future. Pope Francis held another audience on Thursday. He received a delegation from the Anti-Defamation League consisting of 35 lay leaders from the United States. The organization was founded in 1913 to fight against anti-Semitism, bigotry, and defend civil rights in the U.S. and abroad. During their audience, the group expressed their support for the Pope's criticism of anti-Semitism, his concern for the plight of refugees, and for advocating dialogue between Jews, Christians, and Muslims. The Pope, in return, recognized the organization's efforts and thanked them for remaining close to the Church. Sadly, anti-Semitism, which I again denounce in all its forms as completely contrary to Christian principles, and every vision worthy of the human person, is still widespread today. Pope Francis reaffirmed that the Church feels particularly obliged to do all that is possible to repel anti-Semitic tendencies. He recalled his visit to Auschwitz-Birkenau last year, saying there are no adequate words or thoughts in the face of such horrors of cruelty and sin, only prayer and God's mercy. With so much violence in the world, the answer is not more violence, the Pope insisted, but the promotion of the good, and that education, the promotion of respect for all, and protection of the weakest, he said, are ways we can counter these tendencies. He concluded the best remedies against the rise of hatred consist in making available the means necessary for a dignified life, promoting culture, and favoring religious freedom. Still on the topic of audiences, there is one that is less out of the ordinary, the Pope's weekly general audience. On Wednesday, once again, he received pilgrims in Pope Paul VI's hall and delivered his catechesis on the theme of Christian hope, this time encouraging the faithful to be living signs of hope.
We have seen that the virtue of hope is rooted in the Lord's resurrection and its promise of our own. Christian hope is intensely personal, yet also communitarian. St. Paul frequently encourages the members of the early church to sustain one another in hope through mutual prayer and practical concern for those in need. This support must be given especially to the poor, the weak in faith, the suffering, and those tempted to despair. Christian hope, necessarily linked to charity, needs to be embodied in a community of mutual support and loving concern. That body is the church, and its soul is the Holy Spirit. Our witness of hope in Christ's promises is meant to expand and enrich the life of society as a whole. We know that, especially in times of darkness and difficulty, hope is no easy virtue. Yet the Holy Spirit who dwells in our hearts teaches us to trust in the Lord's provident care and to strive constantly in our communities to be living signs of hope for the entire human family.
At that general audience, the Pope also asked for prayers for victims of human trafficking and in a special way for the Rohingya Muslims in Myanmar who suffer persecution at the hands of the country's security forces. And he encouraged those present to ask for the intercession of Saint Josephine Bakhita, whose feast day it was that day. CNS has more.
Oggi è la festa di Santa Giuseppina Bakhita. Questa ragazza schiavizzata in Africa, sfruttata, umiliata, non ha perso la speranza e portò avanti la fede e finì per arrivare come migrante in Europa. E lì sentì la chiamata del Signore e si fece suora. Preghiamo Santa Giuseppina Bakhita per tutti i migranti, i rifugiati, i sfruttati che soffrono tanto, tanto. E parlando dei migranti cacciati via, sfruttati, io vorrei pregare con voi oggi in modo speciale per i nostri fratelli e sorelle Rohingya, questi cacciati via dal Myanmar, che vanno da una parte all'altra perché non li vogliono, è gente buona, gente pacifica. Non sono cristiani, sono buoni, sono fratelli e sorelle nostri. E da anni che soffrono, sono stati torturati, uccisi, semplicemente per portare avanti le loro tradizioni, la loro fede musulmana. Preghiamo per loro e vi invito a pregare per loro al nostro Padre, che è nei cieli.
Tweet of the week. Let us never forget to pray for one another. Prayer is our greatest strength. Each week, newlyweds can take part in the general audience dressed in their wedding tuxedos and gowns to greet the Pope and receive a special blessing. And if they show up at the Vatican in their wedding attire with their ticket and marriage certificate, they get a seat at the front. Nearly 1,000 tickets were sold between 2014 and 2016, and this week some of these couples shared with Catholic News Service what it means for them to meet the Holy Father.
It's always been a dream of mine since I've been little, coming to audiences to see the Holy Father and see the newlywed couples. It's always been a very special way to celebrate a marriage, I thought. So we decided together that it would be a great way to spend our honeymoon.
Couples from around the world who have celebrated their wedding recently and were eligible to obtain special sposi novelli, that is, newlywed tickets, were seated in a VIP section at the Paul VI Audience Hall February 8th. They also had a chance to greet the Pope, receive his blessing, and a special rosary.
By meeting the Pope, I really hope that he will bless us with a lot of happiness and love, and will guide us in the religious path.
This is something that is once in a lifetime, to come and see the Pope after getting married. We could go to other audiences and see him, but seeing him so close is once in a lifetime.
Noi siamo qui per farci benedire dal Santo Padre.
We are here to ask the Pope to bless us.
Because he inspires so much positivity and trust.
E fiducia.
Pope Francis has made marriage and the family a cornerstone of his pontificate. He often encourages young peoples to have the courage to go against the tide and make the choice to marry. At the same time, he highlights the need for prayer and conversion to make the marriage last.
E incoraggi voi, cari sposi novelli, a confidare nell'aiuto della provvidenza e non solo nelle vostre capacità. Il matrimonio senza l'aiuto di Dio non va avanti, Dobbiamo chiederlo tutti i giorni.
On Monday, an ecumenical delegation had their chance as well to meet with Pope Francis. This delegation was led by Cardinal Reinhard Marx from the Conference of Catholic Bishops in Germany and Protestant Bishop Heinrich Bedford-Strom from the Evangelical Churches in Germany. The meeting was set in the context of the 500th anniversary of the Protestant Reformation. They were able to exchange a few words with the Pope, and he offered them some remarks. Pope Francis encouraged the delegation to continue the journey they are on, especially during this commemorative year. It's the perfect time to go back to the source of ecumenical dialogue, which begins with Christ. He asked, "This initiative, can we share it with our brothers and sisters?" He acknowledged the various initiatives taking place this year, namely an ecumenical service of reconciliation, a pilgrimage to the Holy Land, and a congress around a new translation of the Bible. And the Pope added that there are still differences in questions of faith and morals, which remain challenges on the path toward the visible unity for which our faithful yearn. This year gives not only Catholics and Lutherans an opportunity to commemorate the renewal of relations between their churches, but all Christians to seek dialogue and greater unity. So naturally, some of the initiatives happening at the Vatican will take on an ecumenical dimension. The director of the Sistine Chapel Choir, for instance, believes that culture and music present perfect avenues to bring Christians closer together. For the closing of the Week of Prayer for Christian Unity at the end of January, he collaborated with the Westminster Abbey Choir to prepare the music for the final prayer service. And he spoke to Vatican Magazine about this initiative.
This was a great collaboration. In terms of quality, it was professional and opened up a real friendship.
Amicizie e cordialità, tante cose che vicende storico-politiche possono aver separato.
There are a few historical situations which divided us, but we can find common points again by going back to common sources. For example, in order to produce high-quality music, it was important to have common sources, but they are common for us, for the Anglicans, for the Lutherans, and the Orthodox too.
Sono comuni a noi, sono comuni agli anglicani, sono comuni ai luterani.
So this cultural choice gives us the possibility to be a good vehicle for evangelization.
E ciò che permette di essere
It is important to do these choices because with these things we can find the unity.
Ogni anno noi abbiamo un grande appuntamento.
Each year we have this important ecumenical meeting. In the past, we would only meet once. Now we gather twice. But the biggest one, which began with Pope Benedict XVI, is the one which happens around the feasts of Saints Peter and Paul. On that occasion, a non-Catholic choir joins us not only to sing in the Basilica, but also the day before to offer a concert for the diplomatic corps at the Holy See and to the Curia in the Sistine Chapel. And this choir sings the best of its repertoire.
Appunto il meglio del repertorio della confessione, questo grande appuntamento.
Each year there is this big event. This year, for the anniversary of the Reformation, we will work with a Lutheran choir and we will welcome the Tolzer Knabenchor from Munich.
Il Knabenchor di Monaco verrà quest'anno.
We think that next year there will be another collaboration with the Anglicans and with the Royal Chapel from Buckingham Palace.
Di Buckingham Palace, probably in
2019, we will work with the St. Thomas Choir from New York. So we're going to collaborate with something from outside Europe, but we always work with prestigious non-Catholic choirs. In the last years, slowly, we have been able to develop a bigger network which offers us more opportunities for unity.
E fare progetti professionali che incrementano sempre queste vie di unità.
Life was the theme of the Pope's address during the Angelus prayer on Sunday, since Italy was celebrating a day of life encouraged by the Italian bishops. People gathered in St. Peter's Square with signs and posters promoting a culture of life. CNS has more.
Oggi in Italia si celebra la giornata per la vita sul tema Donne e uomini per la vita nel solco di Santa Teresa di Calcutta. Mi unisco ai vescovi italiani nell'auspicare una coraggiosa azione educativa in favore della vita umana. Ogni vita è sacra. Portiamo avanti la cultura della vita come risposta alla logica dello scarto e al calo demografico. Stiamo vicini e insieme preghiamo per i bambini che sono in pericolo dell'interruzione della gravidanza, come pure per le persone che stanno alla fine della vita. Ogni vita è sacra, perché nessuno sia lasciato solo e l'amore difenda il senso della vita. Ricordiamo le parole di Madre Teresa: la vita è bellezza, ammirala. La vita è vita, difendela. Sia col bambino che sta per nascere, sia con la persona che è vicina a morire. Ogni vita è sacra.
And over the weekend, Archbishop Angelo Becciu, substitute for the Secretariat of State, was named as the Pope's delegate to the Order of Malta. He will be the exclusive spokesperson of the order to the Pontiff and will work in close collaboration with the interim leader. He is also charged with assisting the spiritual and moral renewal of the order. Cardinal Becciu's mandate will end once a new leader or Grand Master is elected, which will only be decided sometime next April. The Holy Father called upon Cardinal Becciu after the resignation of the order's former Grand Master, Fra Matthew Festing, and the appointment of their leader ad interim last week.
Dozens of posters by anonymous protesters opposing the Pope were plastered along streets in the center of Rome last Saturday morning. The poster depicts a very stern-looking Pope Francis and a clear message criticizing some of his policies and referring to specific events such as the most recent concerning the Order of Malta. The message ends with a question to the Holy Father: "Where is your mercy?" An element apparently lacking in this pontificate, according to the protesters. The local police immediately covered the poster and indicated that these posters were abusive. However, many of the images were already torn by passers-by who disagree with the message. DIGOS, or the General Investigation and Special Operation Division of the Italian Police, is currently investigating the situation. They are looking the recordings from the street cameras in the areas and hoping to track down the individuals involved. It's not difficult to assume that, in any case, the initiative came from within circles strongly opposed to the Pope's teaching and to his reform efforts. Cardinal Agostino Vallini, the Pope's vicar for the Diocese of Rome, reacted saying, "This anonymous, irreverent and negative poster in some street of Rome against the work of Pope Francis provokes sadness. The faithful of the Christian community, along with the old inhabitants of the city," he continued, "do not identify themselves with this insinuation and renew their sentiments of esteem, respect and gratitude to the Bishop of Rome for his work of evangelization and for his closeness to the people, especially the poor." Father Antonio Spadaro, director of La Civilta Cattolica, an Italian periodical, said that these attacks do not disturb the Pope's serenity, and these protests are actually a sign that he's doing well and causing a lot of annoyance. They are trying to separate him from the heart of the people, but the fact is the opposite. Even Cardinal Marc Ouellet, prefect of the Congregation for Bishops, reacted to the events. He said that the posters are the work of the devil and only seek to divide us.
Last Sunday, one of the largest events of the year in the United States took place, the National Football League Super Bowl. The teams competing this year were the New England Patriots and the Atlanta Falcons. The sporting event reaches an audience beyond U.S. borders, and even Pope Francis had a few words to say about it, calling for such events to build a culture of peace and solidarity.
Los grandes eventos deportivos como el Super Bowl de hoy son sumamente simbólicos, lo que demuestra que es posible construir una cultura del encuentro y un mundo de paz. Al participar del deporte somos capaces de ir más allá del propio interés personal y de una manera saludable aprendemos a sacrificarnos, a crecer en fidelidad y en el respeto a las reglas. Que el Super Bowl de este año sea un símbolo de paz, de amistad, de solidaridad para todo el mundo. Gracias.
If you have any questions, please send them via Vatican Connections Twitter page at Vatican Connections. I'll be happy to answer them on our next episode. And that's all for tonight. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.